So folks, are you considering investing in short-term rentals here in South Florida? But before you go ahead and make that big leap, we need to kind of consider a few things. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of investing in short-term rentals here in South Florida. So, I guess the first question is it really worth it?
Yeah, is it worth it, Kevin? What do you think?
Well, I guess the best way to kind of start to answer that question is to let's define what a short-term rental is.
Okay, so that's a good
basically,
place to
here
start.
in Florida, it's almost you can almost ask any one of a number of people what they consider to be a short-term rental. But here in Florida, from the standpoint of a legal perspective, short-term rentals are basically anything that is rented out for less than 30 days. And I guess the best analogy I can give would be looking at it from the standpoint of kind of like a hotel. If you go check into a hotel anywhere in Florida, on your bill you're going to see a sales tax and you're going to see an occupancy tax. Okay, that occupancy tax is basically the tax that you're going to pay for a short-term rental. That's kind of how it works.
So Kevin, why are short-term rentals, why are they always gaining popularity, and why are they so popular in Florida?
Well, I mean, they've really been gaining popularity here in South Florida recently, and the reason I think is twofold. Number one is that the idea of being able to rent out your property, one that you owe and one that you own, as you may only be coming down to for a short period of time. Maybe you're like a lot of folks that only come down during the winter or come down for a couple of weeks, or whatever. Maybe it's a vacation home for you.
They're called the snowbirds, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. We refer to them affectionately as the snowbirds. But essentially what happens is that in many cases, those properties sit vacant for weeks and weeks and sometimes months out of the year. So number one, the idea of being able to rent that property out and get a little bit of income coming in when the property itself is not being used by you, has become very, very attractive. Probably the second reason and a bigger reason is that from the standpoint of overall investment, you see property values have been increasing here in South Florida for a number of years. South Florida is still consistently one of the best areas to go ahead and invest in property because the market is relatively strong and it's relatively stable. Just as an example is that for the most part, you're seeing 7 to 10% appreciation in property values year over year. And then thanks in large part to the pandemic that we've had, in some cases, you've seen properties that have appreciated as much as 40% in the last 3 years. Some of that comes with improvements and everything else. But what it speaks to is the fact that it's actually a good investment, and people can go ahead and they can invest in a property that they can rent out on a daily, weekly, monthly, or annual basis if they want to. The flexibility of being able to do that is a very, very attractive thing also. But again, the biggest thing is basically being able to maximize the usage and maximize the income potential for any piece of property that you've invested in. So folks, now I don't want to make it sound like this is something where you just all of a sudden wake up one morning and decide that you want to rent your property out. Okay? There are a lot of things to consider, okay? And our suggestion is going to be that you talk to a realtor and you talk to experts that are used to dealing with some of the nuances of short-term rentals, because it's not like not every property qualifies as a short-term rental. Not every property is zoned for it, okay? And you're going to have to talk to local experts like my team and I to find out exactly where the properties are, what some of the rules are, what some of the laws are, okay?
Which we're going to dive deep into.
Exactly.
Oh, and by the way, if you're wondering what's going on with Kevin's eye, he's not a pirate.
It's not Halloween. Okay. Although my grandson does think I look a lot like a pirate, but no. Unfortunately, about a week or so ago, I had a detached retina, and I had to go get emergency surgery to go get my retina reattached. For those of you that have ever suffered through this, you know that it's a whole lot easier just having a patch over the eye to cover it, so that the one eye isn't always competing with the other. So
he's going to keep his eye out on you.
That's right. I'll keep an eye out for you. One.
Okay, so Kev, let's talk about why it's booming.
It's really been kind of picking up over time. I mean, you can see where, if you go back as far as when Disney was actually renting out some of the things some of the places that they had. Now, there's a lot of hotel rooms in Disney's, but there's also a lot of folks that bought condos in and around the Disney area, much like folks bought condos in and around all the amusement parks here in Florida. So, and what they found out is basically they can go ahead and rent it out for a couple of days or for even a week, and they can make a tremendous amount of money. So what a lot of localities have done is kind of capitalized on that, because after all, the state and the city, they want their fair share. So they've gone back and actually rezoned it so that you can do this, a little more legal fashion. The other thing is that basically what you can do is and folks, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but a lot of folks, what they have done is they've gone ahead and said, you know what, we only come down here a couple weeks out of the year, or even if we just come down for the season, for the winter season, what folks have really seen is that when things that are going on, like special events that occur, maybe they're coming down for the Super Bowl, for example. That probably the best example is when the Orange Bowl was held here the year before last in Miami. We're big Georgia fans, okay, and our son-in-law's Michigan fan. So, we were going to go ahead and try to find out what we could find. Folks, I'm telling you, for the 3 days up to that game and the day after that game, there was not a rental to be found.
We couldn't find anything.
You couldn't, it didn't matter what the cost was. You couldn't find a place to rent, okay? And the reason for that is that basically anybody and everybody who could possibly rent their property out for a short-term basis, and probably some of the folks that probably weren't supposed to do it, they went ahead and did that. So what that does is that creates a huge demand for folks. That combined with what's been going on with Airbnb and VRBO, who are kind of the originators, and more recently, Booking.com. Okay, what they're doing is that they do this tremendous job of marketing your property for you. They also do a lot of the other stuff like checking out the renters, collecting the deposits, getting everything taken care of, and they do that for a fee. It's a somewhat nominal fee, but it's a fee nonetheless. Okay, so there are more and more organizations and more and more things being done to make this a whole lot easier for folks.
Yeah, and so that it can be managed for you.
And the other thing, one of the other things probably it's really become more apparent, okay, is the fact that folks, in addition to being able to generate income from this, they're also holding onto their properties a little bit longer, okay, and they're seeing this kind of appreciation, and with the appreciation of the price of the property, there's also an increase in the price of the rent. So it's working out real well for a lot of folks from the standpoint, especially those that have bought property a number of years ago, and they may not owe anything on it. Okay, and they're finding out that basically renting it out for a couple of weeks or renting out even for a month, a year, it covers their taxes, it covers their insurance, and basically the property now begins to support itself.
Okay, guys, let's talk about the maintenance cost.
So, well, folks, I don't want to make it sound like all of a sudden you just decide that you're going to hang a little for rent sign out on your property that you're only living in, or you're only coming to for a couple days or a couple weeks a year. Okay, folks, there is a cost to this. Now, when you rent your property out to somebody and you're charging a premium price, they're going to expect a premium product. So what's going to happen is that sometimes those costs can get up there. Some of the most significant costs are cleaning costs. Okay, if you're renting your property out to different folks, maybe 2 or 3 nights a week, or even if you're renting it out for a couple of weeks each month, you're going to have different folks coming in, okay? And trust me, as much as we would like to think that everybody's going to value our property like we value our property,
like you would, right?
Let me tell you, okay, from experience and from observation, that's not the case. Now, I'm not saying that folks go out and do things maliciously, but I am telling you that when somebody stays in your property for a couple nights or even for a week, okay, it gets a little messy, okay, and it needs to be cleaned. And depending upon the frequency at which you're renting out, you may have to have house cleaning or housekeeping come in, or maids coming in on a regular reoccurring basis. Now,
right. And that can get a little bit costly.
It can get a little costly. Okay.
So you're just going to have to do your due diligence.
And the other thing too is that people are expecting, when they come down and they're paying a premium price. When folks come down to your property, okay, and they're expecting and they're paying a premium price, they're expecting a premium property. They're not expecting something that's basically, a bed, that's a little bed somewhere and a cardboard cabinets and everything else. They're expecting something that they can make them feel like it's at home. Okay, so you're going to have to spend a little bit of money, make a little investment in decorating it, making it look nice. You may want to have some little tchotchkes sitting out so that people feel at home. One of the things to us that kind of got us started in this is that a number of years ago, before Suzanne and I moved down to South Florida, when the kids were in school, we would come down here for spring break. We would go down to the Keys, okay, and we rented this one beautiful home from the same folks for I guess for like 4 or 5 years in Big Pine Key. Okay, and one of the things that was the coolest that we had seen was that we would give them a call and say, hey, look, we're going to come down during spring break, and we do it every year, so they kind of knew. But the way that they confirmed our reservation wasn't just an email. They used to send us a coconut that actually had our name on it, addressed to us. They sent it in the mail, and God knows how much it cost to do that. But it came to us and had a little note in the back that basically said, we can't wait to see you, enjoy your stay.
Yeah, now, part of it was painted in turquoise and it had the kid's name on it. Yeah, the kids used to always get so excited.
So yeah, because that way they knew where we were going and they knew what was going on. So it's little things like that. Now, those things, they come with a cost. So it's the expectation is not that you're not just going to be making money off of this. You're going to have to make an investment in this. So it is going to cost you a little bit. There are some costs. There are some additional costs that we'll go into more in regards to taxes. Okay, and you may even, depending upon the frequency of which you're looking to rent out, you may even want to look at having a property manager manage it for you to make sure that everything's taken care of. We have a lot of folks that we've talked to that are from out of the state and even some that are from out of the country that are looking to invest in short-term rentals. Okay, and the first question they ask us is there somebody that can manage this for us? So, and there are ways of getting this done, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as the video goes on.
Okay, Kev, let's talk about the second pro, location. And what does location have to do?
I mean, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's usually the first or second question that most folks ask us when they talk to us. But essentially, it goes back to what are the first three rules of real estate? Location. Okay. So and it's the same thing whether you're renting or whether you're buying. Okay. If you're buying, you want to be in a great place, where you're going to have all of your needs met, do everything you want to do. For renting, it's even a more important consideration, because not only do you have to consider what it is you would want to be, where you would want to be, and what you want to do, okay, for the times that you're down here enjoying your property, but also what kind of things would attract the widest variety or the widest group of people who want to rent. So a couple of the big areas down here to consider is in the Fort Lauderdale area. First and foremost is Las Olas. Okay, we've said it before in a number of our videos about Fort Lauderdale. Okay, Las Olas and Fort Lauderdale are synonymous. Okay,
right.
Nobody thinks about Fort Lauderdale without thinking about Las Olas Boulevard. Whether you're starting at the top of the boulevard where the hotels are and where you can get some of the nicest restaurants and everything and whatnot. Whether you're walking down, going east on Las Olas Boulevard, go down past the restaurants, go down past all the bars, go down to some of the beautiful houses and the beautiful canals getting down there. So you get yourself all the way down to Fort Lauderdale Beach, okay, and you're adjacent to one of my favorite places, the Elbow Room.
It's a lot of people's favorite place.
I mean, it's been there since I think the late 40s.
Why wouldn't you like Las Olas? It's just so close to everything.
It is. And it's centrally located, okay, and there are a lot of folks that own condos there and a lot of folks that own homes there, okay, and many of the condo associations are less restrictive, and many of the homes in there are in communities that don't have an HOA, so there's really no restrictions whatsoever about renting down there. So Las Olas is a very popular, very favorite location for looking at short-term rentals.
So why is Las Olas such an important place? It's because there's so much to do, right?
Well, there is. There's a lot of things to do, and a lot of things are happening. It's kind of the epicenter of anybody who's coming down to Fort Lauderdale. And if you think about it from the standpoint of, for example, spring break, which we're kind of going through right now, basically you go down there and there's everybody. In March it's the college kids, and in April it's the high school and grade school age kids.
It's also the Tortuga Festival's coming up.
That's
it's
true.
A big music festival.
It's big. So there's all kinds of things that are going on that make Las Olas very, very attractive. Okay. Now the other thing is that Las Olas, because of its unique location, being both on the ocean and being on the Intercoastal Waterway, during the winter time, when you have the holiday parade coming down the Intercoastal Waterway, a lot of folks, they just love to go down there and see the holiday parade. It's one of the oldest, and it's been around forever, and it's absolutely beautiful. As folks who live down here full time, we love going down there and checking it out. We spoke earlier too about some of the seasonal events that go on. In Fort Lauderdale, every October is the largest international yacht show, whatever you want to call it, in this hemisphere. Okay, anybody who's anyone who's anybody, and anyone is anywhere, and anybody that wants to be seen in the boating business, they're here. Okay, and for that week coming up there, it's much like it was we pointed out for the Orange Bowl game. You can't find a place to stay.
So the thing is to book early.
Exactly, to book early, but yet another example of how you can basically, you can make a significant amount of money over a very short period of time, okay, that you couldn't ordinarily do with a longer term rental or a more traditional rental, because most condos places will not let you rent your property out for only a week unless it's been zoned for short-term rentals.
Okay, so that's a good place to invest.
Exactly.
So what's another place that's good to invest?
Well, we've talked about this before too. Hollywood.
With the boardwalk.
With the Broadwalk in Hollywood. It's one of our favorite places to go down to. Inevitably during the football season, we'll go down there at least once or twice a month to go sit out in the Broadwalk, do some people watching, and of course watch the football games that are going on.
Can you tell he's a football fan?
I know. It's what can I say? It's in my blood. But Hollywood is great, and Hollywood actually has really begun to recognize the benefit of doing this. So the Hollywood and in areas similar, close to it, like Hallandale, they've really begun to see kind of what's going on and what the benefit is of maybe modifying some of the zoning that goes on to allow, to really not only just allow short-term rentals, but basically to encourage it. Okay, so there's a lot of places. One of my best friends from when we were kids, I mean, a guy that I've known since I was 9 years old, came down. His son, he and his wife brought his son and his son's fiance down to basically stay down here for spring break for a week. Took him around and showed him all the things that were going on. He couldn't believe all the properties down here that were available for short-term rentals. As a matter of fact, he was so impressed by it. He's now looking to invest in a short-term rental down here. So folks, I mean, it comes in all shapes and it comes in all sizes and it comes in all flavors. So yeah, Hollywood is definitely a place to think about.
What kind of activities are there that would make it?
Well, I mean, in addition to the Broadwalk, which is about 2.5 miles long and it's about 40 feet wide, so there's folks that are riding bicycles, they're rollerblading, they're walking.
Oh, you got the flow rider.
And there's got the little flow rider things that are going on, and periodically there's little places you can stop to see what's going on. For example, you can stop at Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville. You can watch him do the wave pool, okay? Or you can pop into the Land Shark Grill and have yourself a little, some adult beverage and something to eat. There's a nice little theater area where on Friday and Saturday nights, especially during the warmer months, where bands will come out and play. Some of them are local bands, some of them a little more regional type things.
It's a free concert.
It's a free concert. You go out there, and honestly, folks, there's any kind of cuisine that you could possibly want is all along the Hollywood Broadwalk. Anything from Mediterranean to Italian to Asian to Hispanic to African American to soul food. Basically, anything you could want is basically there for you to enjoy. So there's a lot of things that you can do down there. And plus the other thing about Hollywood is that its location. You are only a couple of miles from downtown Hollywood, where there's the Arts District and a lot of the culture and stuff that's going on. There's a huge area for arts and crafts. You're only about 5 miles away from the Hollywood Hard Rock Casino. Okay, and Hard Rock Live, which is where a lot of concerts go on during the year.
That's true. So it's location. What's another area?
Probably one of the other areas that's really neat is Wilton Manors. Now, Wilton Manors has really been known for a long time for basically not only for the prime real estate that's in there and its location within Fort Lauderdale, and it's also its proximity to the major highways to basically go north, east, south, and west, however you want to go. But Wilton Manors is a huge entertainment district. There's all kinds of entertainment that goes on down there. There's all kinds of restaurants. There's all kinds of venues that happen. Actually, as a matter of fact, one of the coolest places we've ever been to was a little shop called Over the Moon, and it's like one of those old-time candy shops that you go into when you were a kid. Like when I was a kid, we used to go pay like $2 to go to a movie. My mom would drop us off early in the morning. We'd go into like Ben Franklin or something like that and go get a bunch of penny candy. Well, you know what? It's not a penny anymore, but Over the Moon still has a lot of that old kind of candy that you go in there, stuff we had when we were a kid. So it just kind of speaks to the variety of things that are out there.
Oh, isn't that where you got those Alf cards?
Oh yeah, one of my dear friends, Gus. We were big Alf fans from the '80s. A TV show Alf. So I bought a bunch of cards and sent them up to him, and he and his brother cracked up and cackled the entire weekend. So it was terrific. It was a great thing. So Wilton Manors is definitely an area. One of the other areas that's really coming up, and it's a little bit further out from Fort Lauderdale, but it's still within proximity if you want to come up to Fort Lauderdale to experience a lot of what Fort Lauderdale has to offer. Okay, is Sunny Isles. Now Sunny Isles is just right over the Miami-Dade County line. Okay, just south of Hollywood, and Sunny Isles has really come on strong the last couple of years with not only are they doing rezoning to allow existing condos to basically go and become short-term rentals, but they're building a lot more condos down there. The condos in Sunny Isles have come up with kind of a neat idea, and I think it originated there, at least from the standpoint of South Florida. What you see in Sunny Isles, there's a lot of hotels like the Ritz-Carlton, the Trump Towers that used to be like hotels. Okay, and what they do is now what the hotels have done, they create this hotel management program, and what that really does is that the hotel kind of helps manage the property with you. Okay, so they'll cover most of your monthly fees, okay, in exchange for a revenue share. Now it's a little bit larger revenue share than you would get with a property management company, but they take care of things like house cleaning, take care of things like the maintenance fees on the condos. They take care of things like making sure that people are getting checked in. They also make sure that the amenities that are available are available to the folks that are coming down and renting. Some of those amenities have become pretty significant. Maybe 24-hour concierge access, maybe garage access. There's actually a couple of we call them condo-hotels. There's a couple of the condo-hotels that actually have their own private beach access, which for a lot of folks has become a very attractive amenity, and basically it allows you to rent your property out at a premium.
Well, and if you're interested in something like that, reach out to us because we can definitely help you with those.
Exactly. Now, folks, we're talking a lot about, I don't want to, at the risk of oversimplifying this, there's a lot of information that needs to go into looking at this, and that's why it's important for you to reach out to real estate experts like my team and I. Okay, so folks, we've talked about all the great and wonderful things that you can do and all the kind of money you can make. And we kind of hit a little bit on some of the costs that are going in, but just the maintenance and the cleaning are not the only costs that you need to consider, okay? Now, if you're gonna be renting your property out to other people, okay, chances are your insurance company is gonna wanna know about it, because much like the city and the state, okay, and the federal government, the insurance companies, they're gonna wanna get their piece. Now, you wanna make sure that you're covered and you're protected in the event that something unforeseen occurs. So, if you're gonna be renting your property out to other people, okay, especially folks that you don't know, it's going to behoove you to go ahead and let your insurance company know. And chances are your insurance company, that will result in a change in your premiums. So the other thing you're going to talk about, the other thing you want to look at is the maintenance fee. Now, we talked a little bit about that before when we talked about the condo-hotels, okay? But again, maintenance fees can range from very, very reasonable, maybe even as low as a couple $100 a month, up to a couple of $1,000s a month, depending upon the location and depending upon the amenities that come out. Now, for example, if you're going to stay at like one of the places like the Ritz-Carlton or the Trump Tower, for example, okay, right on the beach, okay, it costs more to maintain a building that is on the beach than it does to maintain a building that is a block or 2 or 3 back from the beach. So just from the normal standpoint of maintenance, you're going to be paying more to be able to maintain it. So the building keeps its allure and the building makes sure that it looks as good as it should. The other thing you want to take into consideration is what amenities does that building offer you? Does that complex offer? And most of them are going to have their own pool. Some of them may have a clubhouse. Some of them may have a fitness facility. A couple of them may even have restaurants or may even have cafes on the first floor. Some of them may have underground garages too, where you can go in and park. Some of it may have 24-hour access with concierge. Most of them will have security. So, and all those things come at a cost. So you want to kind of factor that in. So, just before you start bringing up all those dollar signs, folks, I just want to give you a little sanity check that there are some costs that go into this. And of course, there's always taxes. Now, one of the nice things about Florida, okay, one of the things that we appreciate the most about Florida, okay, is that Florida does not impose a state income tax. Okay. However, that does not mean that the state and the counties and the cities, they still get their fair share, okay? So they have a sales tax that goes on there, and as we talked about very early on, when you're doing short-term rentals, anything less than 30 days has a sales tax. It also has an occupancy tax, okay? And those are taxes that you need to collect, and since you collected them, subsequently you need to file for them, okay? So there's taxes around that to make sure that you're taking care of all those things, okay? The other thing is that in some localities, you also may have to be licensed. The fact that you yourself are renting this out yourself, acting as your own agent, may require you to actually get a license to operate with a short-term rental. Okay, that is one of the reasons why the condo-hotels have become so popular. Also, one of the reasons why Airbnb and VRBO have become so popular. Pro number 3, kind of the flexibility. So folks, probably from our perspective, as folks who live here, okay, and as folks that deal, and as realtors that deal with folks that are coming in, and they don't really know when they're going to be coming in. Okay, some folks may come down for the holidays. Some folks may come down when it gets just too damn cold wherever they live, and some folks may come down when it gets too damn hot wherever they live. Okay, because there are places in the Southwest that get a whole heck of a lot hotter than does here in South Florida, and they don't have the benefit of an ocean breeze or a sea breeze coming in.
Absolutely.
Okay. So another one of the pros here is the flexibility. When you're managing a short-term rental, even if you're having somebody else manage it for you, you have the flexibility to choose basically whenever you want to rent it out and whenever you don't want to rent it out. If you want to use it for yourself, if you want to have your older kids or some friends go ahead and come down and use it for a couple days. Maybe you even have a colleague or something that's coming down here on business, and you want to go ahead and let them and have them use it. Okay, so or you just want to use it personally.
So what about the time frames when you're renting?
Well, I mean that's the beauty of short-term rentals. There's no limit on how long you can rent it. There's just basically you can rent it for anywhere from a day to a week to a month. If you're lucky, if you're fortunate enough to find somebody, you could rent it out for the entire year if you could find somebody that could do that, and basically sit there and you can figure out based upon what's going on, time of year, time of day, events that are occurring, you can basically vary the rent however you want to. So there's a lot of flexibility that you have with short-term rentals that you wouldn't have with medium-term rentals or longer-term rentals.
And if you have questions about that, just leave us a comment below and we'll answer for you.
Exactly.
Okay, Kevin, what are some of the legal and regulatory issues?
Well, and this is kind of a con. Okay, so from the standpoint, it's a con in two respects. It's a con, so it's not a pro. It's a con. Actually, if you think about it, it's a con from the standpoint again, the state, the city's trying to con you out of your money. Okay, so a little play on words there, folks. I mean, I thought it was funny, but then again, I'm the only one that laughs at most of my jokes anyhow.
Oh yeah, you're the pirate, remember?
So yeah, exactly, I'm a legend in my own mind. But basically, there are some legal and regulatory issues that come up. For example, if you're going to be doing this on your own, okay, then you're going to have to get licensed to do it, okay? And the licensing, it's not super difficult to do it, but there is a cost associated with that. There's a time commitment that you need to make on doing that. The other thing is that you need to look at it from the standpoint of not just what the locality has, be it Broward County or be it Fort Lauderdale or Hollywood, or be it Sunny Isles or Wilton Manors, but you also need to look at it from the standpoint of your association if you live in a condo, your condo association, or your homeowners association if you live in a townhome, in a single family home. In some cases, there are very explicit and very strict requirements and restrictions on how long you can rent, whether you can rent or not, how long you can rent, and in some cases, in some condo associations, they actually want to be part of that rental process. They want the renters to fill out a form so that they can check them out too. Little much of an overreach from my perspective, but folks, it's something that you need to consider. So there are some legal and regulatory issues that you need to consider before you go ahead and just basically, again, hang a for rent sign on your property here in South Florida. So again, we touched on this earlier, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but it bears worth repeating, and it bears a little bit of elaboration. Okay, so one of the most significant pros of short-term rentals and your ability to do this is the flexibility that you have. Okay, again, I really can't stress enough the variance that we've seen in short-term rentals for certain activities that go on throughout the year. We've mentioned some of the college football, the Orange Bowl. Next year, the college championship is going to be played here in Miami. I can guarantee you that virtually, even regardless of who plays, okay, pretty much anything that can be rented will be rented, and a lot of things that probably shouldn't be rented will also be rented. Okay.
Right.
Now, there are a number of things that go on too. We talked about the Fort Lauderdale boat show in October. Miami, not to be outdone, has their own boat show in February, okay, that results in the same thing, okay? And folks, there are, if you've ever seen pictures of Miami going back to either Miami Vice or CSI Miami, there are condos upon condos upon condos in Miami, okay? And everybody's looking to make a buck. So the flexibility that you have in being able to accommodate what's happening even on a daily basis or a seasonal basis, okay, really gives rise to the increase in short-term rentals.
That's true, and let's face it, life happens, and there are situations. Now, again, when you're looking at short-term rentals, you really need to use a realtor because there's a lot going on with the condos, and you want to make sure that talk about the funds.
Right, and you want to, and the other thing too, that's a good point, Suzanne, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
One of the things that you really want to make sure that you're doing, especially when you're dealing with associations and when you're dealing with title companies, and even to the event that you need to bring in maybe some legal assistance, work with an expert like my team and I. We've worked with associations before. We've gone up against associations and we've persevered and we've prevailed, okay? We work predominantly with settlement attorneys so that in the event that something needs to be done, an attorney needs to jump in, maybe issue a legal opinion, an opinion letter, or negotiate on your behalf or on our behalf, right, okay, with an association or even with a buyer or a seller. Okay, these are the kind of folks that we work with, and we make it a point of our business to make sure that because we recognize that we're acknowledged experts in this field, we only work with acknowledged experts in this field.
Right, you don't want surprise fees. Okay, guys, let's talk about con number 4.
Okay.
And it's going to be your negative reviews.
Okay, so basically, so let's kind of paint a little picture for everybody. Okay, so basically, you've listened to everything that we've said. Okay, you've done everything we told you to do. Okay, and you've worked with us. We found the perfect property, negotiated a great price, and everything works, and it's all legal, and everything is done, and you found the perfect management company, and you're happy with the way everything is set up. Okay, and everything's humming right along, and all of a sudden you rent it out to somebody. Okay, and for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it rains, for example. Okay, or maybe they couldn't find a place to park. The issues are as varied as a day is long.
Right,
okay?
It's like when you go to a restaurant and you get an off server that day.
Right. Okay. So one of the things that can really hurt you, and you need to be cognizant of this, okay, is that you've done everything right. It's a perfect place. You've decorated and everything is fine. Okay, all of a sudden, then you go ahead and you rent it out to these people, okay, and it seems like they're having a good time, and all of a sudden you get a negative review. Okay, so you need to make sure that you're prepared for this, because there are people who, no matter what you do, they're probably not going to like things. Maybe they thought they paid too much. Maybe they thought the location was different than where they thought they're going to be. You need to understand that these kind of negative reviews, okay, especially if you're doing this on your own, not through Airbnb or not through VRBO, not that we're advocating that you use that, but there's a lot of benefit to utilizing organizations and companies like us who are experts, like Airbnb and VRBO. They can help you navigate those potentially troubled waters in doing that. Make sure that you're prepared for the fact that you may get a negative review and that you're able to respond. Now, most of the negative reviews that we've seen are highly subjective. They're very seldom are they objective. They're highly subjective, okay? And they're basically due to either miscommunication or an expectation that wasn't managed properly, okay? And they can be resolved very, very quickly. But it's something that you want to take into consideration, okay, is that periodically you may have to deal with that client or that customer, that renter, okay, that is just not going to be happy no matter what you do.
That's true. It's the key is managing expectations.
Exactly. So folks, investing in short-term rentals can be highly profitable, okay, and that can be highly rewarding. However, you need to do your homework and you need to make sure you consider everything that's going on. Hopefully what we've provided for everybody in this video, you found informative, you found educational, hopefully a little bit of amusing, so I can at least get some of my comedy routine out there for testing out. Okay, but again, folks, the overriding thing is that there's a lot of money that can be made, okay, but you need, like anything else, you need to, like any other investment, you need to do your homework. You need to make sure that it's going to be right for you, okay? And I would encourage you, as Suzanne has pointed out, if you have any questions whatsoever, call us, email us, text us, DM us on social media, okay? Or you can jump to the head of the line, okay, and go ahead and click on the link below and set up a Zoom call. We can chat for about 40 or 45 minutes about short-term rentals, okay, about long-term rentals, about moving down here, some of the things that maybe you've seen, some of the things maybe you've heard. Okay, just reach out and let us know whatever you want to talk about. We're here to help.
We'd love to help you. And if you've got any questions, like you said, just send us a comment.